Hi, my name is Robert Chelle with Chelle Law, and I'm an attorney that assists veterinary associates with employment contract and independent contractor agreement issues. Today I'm going to talk about veterinary employment contract review. So, when I'm reviewing a contract with a veterinary associate who has a new opportunity, what are some of the things that we generally discuss, and then some red flag areas you need to be concerned about. So, first, compensation, always an important part of any kind of review. For veterinary associates, normally it would be a base salary, perhaps with some kind of productivity bonuses on a monthly or quarterly basis. The veterinary industry uses the ProSal method. Can be different ways, but for the most part, it would be you'd have a base draw, and then whether or not you collected more than what your base salary would be, you would get a percentage of the collections that came in. Above that, some veterinary associates will be paid just via collections or production percentage, meaning whatever the practice collected based on your behalf, you get a certain percent of that. I mean, normally in ProSal, it's between 18 to 22. You can't, at least in my opinion, it's very difficult to sustain on a percentage that low. So I would say at least 30 to 35 would be ideal, or at least better. It's a little bit on compensation. Next, we would talk about the restrictive covenants, non-compete, non-solicit, non-interference. These are all important things for veterinarian. You want to make certain that the scope of the non-compete is specific to what you're doing for the employer. Meaning, if you're working in emergency veterinary care, you want the contract to state you can't work in emergency veterinary care, not just you can't work as a veterinarian, for 1 year and 5 miles from the practice location. This just gives you options. And so, same thing if you're in like a small vet clinic, you want it to say you can't work in a small animal clinic. You can't work in a small animal clinic, for 1 year and 5 miles, and then at least you'd be able to do some relief work, urgent care, emergency, something like that. You just want to have options so that you can get through that non-compete restriction period. Next, schedule and duties, and then also call as well. You want it written out in the contract. This is what your schedule is going to be. These are the days you're going to work. These are the hours you're going to work. And these are your call responsibilities. Maybe the practice boards, how are that, how do they handle boarded animals? Are you responsible for them? Somebody else? Do you split the responsibilities? These are things that sometimes employers don't want to put in the agreement, but you don't want to get in a situation where you are working much more than you expected and you're paid on a base salary and you're an exempt employee. So you want to make certain that the schedule, locations, hours, call are all spelled out in the contract. Termination, how much notice do you have to provide? Usually somewhere between 60 to 90 days would be an industry standard amount. And so in that case, you would just give them notice, like literal resignation letter. And then that 90-day, 60-day window would start. You work out that time, and then you're kind of free to go after that. One piece, and I guess it's kind of a combination of termination and compensation. If you're paid purely on collections, you want to make certain there's language in the contract that doesn't say your compensation ends at the date of termination. You want it to say that you'll get any kind of collections that come in after the contract ends, usually a 90-day window. Now, in veterinary medicine, this isn't as important. However, there are pockets of the country where veterinary insurance is more popular than others. And so what you don't want to do is do some work and then that money come in after you're gone and you're not getting any credit or the percentage that you're owed. So that's one thing to think about. And really that, as I said before, only matters in areas where veterinary insurance is relatively popular. For whatever reason, it seems like in the Northeast, it's much more popular than in some other areas of the country. And then last, malpractice. Once again, this is very simple for the veterinary industry. Nearly everyone uses the AVMA PLIT. It's an occurrence-based policy, so no tail insurance is necessary, but it should be spelled out in the contract, the type of policy that you're receiving. Most people will not put what carrier it's through, although if it is with the AVMA, sometimes they'll put that. I mean, it's just relatively inexpensive for malpractice insurance for a vet, so it's not that big of a deal. Anyway, those are just some things that I review during a veterinary employment contract review. If you have any questions about your employment agreement or independent contractor agreement, feel free to contact my law firm at the information listed below in the description. And I appreciate you watching the video. All right, thanks. Take care.